Well, thank you for joining us as we celebrate the reopening of the Texas Tech Dairy Barn. Yesterday, our Board of Regents held their annual retreat in this facility. Along with Chancellor Mitchell and our Regents, the four presidents, we spent the day planning for the future of the Texas Tech University system. And how appropriate I thought it was that we would be engaged in a discussion of the future of Texas Tech in a building that provided such a vivid and real connection to our past. This is one of the four original buildings on this campus, but for more than just its age, it has a special historical significance because of what it represents. It stands as a reminder of our West Texas heritage and our agricultural roots. This barn provided an opportunity for some of the first students on this campus, imbued with the West Texas work ethic, to offset their college expenses by bringing their cows to campus and then selling the dairy products. Now, I don't think we have any cows on campus now, as far as I know, but I believe those characteristics still distinguish what it means to be a Red Raider. This building has not served a functional purpose since 1966 when it was abandoned. In 2016, we began discussions to refurbish this facility. We said that we would match donor contributions, and people so generously stepped up, and that's why we're here today. And I'll be acknowledging some of those donors in a bit. And in fact, there is a plaque inside the building where you can see a long list of donors, but there are some special people I do want to recognize. Dale and Cheryl Swinburne, Larry and Renee Nelson, and then the C.H. and Helen Jones Foundation. But we're here today, and we have this opportunity to refurbish this barn, not because of what we've done in the past few years, but because of the support and efforts of so many over the 50-some years that it's been empty. In those 50 years, so many people, so many alumni, especially from the College of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources, provided some financial support to provide minor repairs, but more importantly, they kept alive a vision that we realize today, and I thank them for that. So before I ask Chairman Huckabee to come forward, I do want to take this moment to introduce a few special guests. First, our regents that are here today. Regent Ron Hammonds, Regent John Steinmetz, Regent Mark Walker, Regent Ginger Carrick, Regent Dusty Womble, Student Regent Walter Scheid, and it would be terrible to miss somebody, have I? I think I've gotten everyone. Mayor Pope, thank you for being here. Pete Laney, we're very glad that you were able to come out today. I saw Bobby Waddle. Dan Taylor, it's great to have you here. And as I go down this list, I realize I'm going on a slippery slope because I won't know where to stop. Oh, President Hawkins, the new president at Angelo State University, thank you for being here. With that, I'd like to ask Chairman Chris Huckabee to come forward.
Good morning. Thank you, President Skubanek, for that. This is very special, and I want to say for me, this is a very, very special building. I'd like to share a little bit about why that is. I was an architecture student here at Texas Tech, and if you were an architecture student, you always did, at some point during your architectural career, you did what was called the Dairy Barn Project. And the Dairy Barn Project was they would bring the architecture students over, we would gain access to this building, and we would get to each design a concept for what we saw the vision and the future of this building to be, and then we would present that. I would venture to guess almost every architect who's graduated from Texas Tech University in the past 40 years or so has been in this building, has spent a great deal of time in this building, and has a personal vision for what this should look like. So That's the good news. The bad news is if you were the architect that took this project on, you have all these critics around the world who believe their design is still the best. So you could imagine it was probably a great challenge to take on. I'll say this, I got yesterday, as Lawrence said, we got to spend yesterday in this building. And I've gotten to do a lot of these presentations and a lot of celebrations. This is the best project we've ever done at Texas Tech, and I mean that as sincerely as possible. This is exciting. I hope you've seen it. I hope if you haven't seen it, you will. And let me tell you why I feel that way. Because I believe if we lose honoring the heritage of who we are, then we give up everything. And I used to walk around as a student. I was going to tell you 10 years ago, but I'm not going to try to pull that off. But when I was a student here, I used to walk around and think, how in the world are we allowing this building to just sit here and rot? And I really would think that. Come on, there's got to be a way to make this building happen. And it just sat there, and it just sat there, and it just sat there. And about 4 years ago, I got a call, and they said, hey, we're going to do this project. And I started laughing because I said, it's not going to happen. I was told it was going to happen when I was a student. It's not going to happen. So to be here today and to be able to celebrate this is a huge celebration for all of us. And we only get to do that for one reason. We get to do that because of generous donors. Those of you who have stepped up and said we have a vision for who Texas Tech is and who we should be, and we can never stop preserving who we were. And I think that's what really matters here. And I believe when you go inside, you'll be proud of the nod of respecting who we were, but also celebrating who we are going to be. And I think that's really the neat thing about this. So if you were a part of this in any way, thank you very much. You've really made a difference. I would ask you to think about 1925, before this was built. Think about that. There was only 3 buildings on campus, 3 buildings. And leaders that came before us had a vision for who Texas Tech could be today. And that's a pretty bold vision. There was an administration building. There were 2 other buildings on campus, and it was before this was built. And this was just wide open prairie. And to have the vision to say we could be worldwide leaders is pretty tremendous. We are the beneficiaries today of great and bold visions, and I think we also have an obligation as leaders to continue to carry that bold vision forward. So thanks to all of you, 1, for being here to celebrate this, but 2, for what you've done to allow this to happen. I'd like to close with this. In the business I'm in, we get to do lots of ribbon cuttings, and in my office we call these recognition of the uninvolved, because people like me stand up and take credit for doing things we didn't do. So I'm not going to do that. This is not going to be recognition of the uninvolved. I want to recognize some involved. And I would like to say that if you were part of the design team in any way, if you were part of the group that visioned this completed project, if you led in any way the design team, the construction team, or anyone on FP&C, if you had an involvement in that, then I say bravo. You did a great job, and congratulations and thank you. You really are the folks that made this happen. Executing a project like this is really like an orchestra, and that's really the best way I can describe it. Everybody has to play their part, and they have to play it perfectly to end up with what you end up with here. And they did that, and they did it in an excellent way where we can all be proud. So while I get to stand up here and maybe accept some of this credit, I get none of it, but a lot of folks do. And those are the design teams, FP&C, and the contractor, generous people who said, yes, we'll step up and entrust you with our money to make this happen. And at the end of the day, that all comes together to make what I consider to be very beautiful music. And that very beautiful music is what you're going to see when you tour this building today. So thank you for being here. What a celebration of this project and the heritage of Texas Tech. This is everything we stand for, and this is a very, very good day. So thank you very much. And Lawrence, I think I'm turning things back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Huckabee. I was remiss in probably not recognizing Billy Breedlove and his group for what they did. Chairman Huckabee said, of all the projects we've done, this is the best. Billy, you've done a lot of projects on campus. It's good to know you finally got it right. This is something that's important to all of the Texas Tech community, but especially the College of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources. And Provost Gallion, who has a long history and knowledge of this barn, is going to share some of the history at this time.
Thank you, Lawrence. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. It really is a special day, I think, for Texas Tech, for the College of Ag Sciences and Natural Resources, but truly for the university, because, as has already been talked about, this barn is, I think, of the 3 buildings that still remain on campus. 2 of those are buildings that were associated with the College of Agriculture. The Judging Pavilion, or Landscape Architecture studio area now, is just over that way. So we're very proud of that. The dairy barn, as was already noted, was planned in 1925 when the campus started, basically, or first class. And it was designed by an architect from Fort Worth by the name of W.C. Hedrick, who did some other work on campus. He had input from the dean at that time, who was Arthur Leidig, who was actually, I think, an agronomist or a plant person by training, not a dairy person. And another person who was very heavily involved, in fact, was said to have selected the site for the barn and the associated paddocks and corrals, was Professor W.L. Stengel, who was, at that time, the head of the Animal Husbandry Department, and subsequently, when Dr. Leidig retired, Dean Leidig retired, Professor Stengel became the dean of the college. Construction began in 1925. It was completed in 1927 at a cost of approximately $29,400. It's a little bit higher than that to do the renovation, but times have changed. Once it was in operation, the creamery, which was off this direction and was torn down when the barn was abandoned to make space actually for the foreign languages building, provided milk and ice cream to the campus cafeteria for a long period of time, and also for a period of time delivered milk products and ice cream and such things to consumers in the city of Lubbock. The barn was closed in 1965, 66, somewhere in that range, when new facilities were constructed and the dairy operations were moved off campus. It was left then really to deteriorate, and no one really claimed it, although fairly quickly after it was abandoned, people started envisioning how it could be used. Actually, there were plans in the early 70s about different approaches to be used for incorporating the barn into the campus community. But nothing ever happened, and eventually in the late 1980s it had deteriorated to the state that there was discussions about tearing it down or doing something more drastic with it, I guess. And a group of students and also alumni, led in that particular case by Arch Lamb, who's, you will see some commentary by Arch and his 10 reasons for saving the dairy barn and some other things that he had to say about the dairy barn at the time. But they led an effort to preserve the barn, and that did happen. There was some effort at the time to improve the barn in terms of its basic exterior aesthetics. And it ultimately led to one of the signs that you see over here, which is the 1992 National Register of Historic Places designation for the barn. That's the one that's actually on the wall of the barn. In 2016, the students got involved again, and the Student Government Association, along with the Lubbock County Historical Commission, led the effort to have the barn designated as a Texas Historic Landmark, which is the standing plaque that you see over here. For me, my history with the barn really started in 2011, pretty much. Like many people, I had probably seen it, walked by it. My office was not too far away, actually, but far enough away that I didn't really see it very often. But I was actually standing over in the plant science building, which is right over here, now the Bayer Plant Science Building. And I was on the second floor in the atrium, which is glassed in on both the north and the south side. And the south view looks towards the dairy barn. And Michael Molina, the former Vice Chancellor for Facilities Planning and Construction, and I were standing on the second floor. And I looked across to the barn and noticed that there were just really huge areas of shingles that were missing, all the way down to the decking of the roof. And I remember saying to Michael, you know, if we don't do something about the dairy barn, we're going to lose it. And fortunately, we started an effort that fall at our homecoming breakfast to Dairy Barn Renovation Fund. And that helped us collect a little money and gather a little attention at least. And that attention resulted in 2012 to some investments by the university in a new roof on the barn, as well as repair to some of the trim and painting of the trim. But we basically just stabilized it for a period of time and continued to have a vision about what might happen. And as the president and Regent Huckabee both said, this is a vision that has taken really pretty close to a half century to come to. It's not something we just did in the last few years. It came together in the last few years, yes, but it's a lot of people over a long period of time envisioning what this facility might be. And as has already been said, we, in 2016, made a commitment to match donations to the barn. We kind of came up with a plan about what it might become and some ideas about what the cost might be. Turned out those ideas on costs were a little bit off, but yeah, as they often are. But we had an estimate of the renovation cost. The president agreed based on that estimate to match donations, and thanks to the generosity of our donors in 2018, we reached our fundraising goal. Of course, as we actually got into planning in a more serious way, we found out that things were going to cost a little bit more than we thought. And I want to give a special note of thanks to our CFO, Noelle Sloan, who, along with the operations division, did a huge amount, probably on the order of $500,000 of in-kind donations of work and supplies and so on to the project to help us to get to that goal. So thank you, Noelle, and also to Sean Childers, one of our VPs in operations, for their work, and to all of the folks in operations who worked on the project. So what started as a kind of hazy vision of what the dairy barn might become became what you will see today, which is a centrally located facility on campus, which I think is neat, that it's right in the middle of campus. And that was part of our vision. Let's build a facility in the center of campus that would allow faculty, students, staff, and community members to meet together, to collaborate, to create, to hold workshops and other types of meetings, along with an incredible events facility that you will see in the loft. The first time I went in the building in 2011, we got the physical plant to give us a key and got a bunch of flashlights because there were no lights. There's no electricity at the time. And went up some creaky, pretty dangerous steps up to the loft. And the loft at that time, and you'll see parts of the loft on walls and in other places, the flooring that we were stepping on at the time. And but I remember stepping into the loft and thinking, wow, this just could be an amazing facility with the right work and the right effort and the right smart people behind planning it. Something really wonderful could happen here. And I think you will agree with me that that is indeed what has happened. So I think this is quickly going to become a preferred location for events. It's going to be a great location for workshops across the campus. And I think it's something that we're going to be very proud of as we move into the second century. And it's a reminder of so many things. It's a reminder, as the president has said, of opportunity. I wanted to say one thing. President mentioned Larry Nelson, and I want to kind of close with the fact that I think, as much as anything, the barn reminds us of the value of opportunity, and that's really what universities should be all about, is opportunity. Because as a working dairy production and manufacturing facility, the barn did indeed provide many students with the opportunity to help pay for their college education. As the president noted, even to the point of letting students bring up to 3 cows to be part of the herd. Now, I'm a cattle person, and so I'm kind of proud that we're highlighting cows all of a sudden, and so that's a good thing from my perspective. And in fact, there are a lot of little cows that I think will be part of this celebration. Not ones you get milk from, but I think you'll enjoy them. But I wanted to tell you something that Larry Nelson told us about his reason for donating to the project. Larry said, the main reason I was interested in this project is that as a freshman in 1953, I developed a friendship with another freshman, Archie Nelson, who was no relation, but they probably, if we did seating assignment alphabetically, they probably got to know each other, right? And Archie Nelson was from Winters. And Archie told Larry that he bunked in the dairy barn and worked at the dairy and received enough money to enroll in school. And that's what enabled him to attend Texas Tech. And Larry said, I don't know how many other students had that opportunity, but I expect it was several. Larry is a person who knows the value of opportunity, and I think it is that very opportunity that this barn represents. So thanks to all of our donors for what you did to make this a reality. It means a lot to all of us, and we appreciate it. Appreciate all the work that went into it in the planning, and look forward to having you in this facility in the future. Thank you. And I get the opportunity now to introduce our Vice Chancellor for Facilities Planning and Construction, Billy Breedlove, who did indeed finally get it right on this project.
Batting 1 for 20, I think. Chairman Huckabee, I get to stand up here like you talked about and thank a lot of people that did the work, the actual work, and it's my honor to do that. So good morning, everyone, and I do want to recognize some of the folks that did the work on this building, whether it was design or the construction. First of all, this was a collaborative team effort between FP&C and also Texas Tech operations. I know that in our camp in FP&C, we have Todd Harden and Lonnie Pierce, who poured a lot of time and energy into this. And also, we mentioned Sean Childers earlier, and also Jeff Sutherland from Texas Tech operations that really drove the design and the construction of the renovation, so we thank them. So also want to thank Emily Wilkinson, who was she is our system public art director, that she drove the design for all of the exhibit space that you're going to see in there. So she took that head on. Thank you, Emily, for that. And then Grant Kurtner, who battled 40 years of architectural design to get this right with Condrey Design Group. Thank you, Grant, and your team for your efforts on this. It's a beautiful facility, and we appreciate your work. And then also the actual work that was being performed by Tyner Construction, that team was led by Chad Henthorn, and there's so many others out there that did work. They're up here late nights and working in a dingy barn that did a lot of things, and I can't thank all of them, but thank you for your work on this. Just a couple of interesting facts before you go in the building. It's about 8,000 square feet. We did start design in November of 2018, and construction started in November of 2019. The first story you're going to see, we do have the foyer with the donor wall that the president mentioned. We have a large multi-purpose studio space on the first floor, a conference room, 3 offices, and a new elevator. It's interesting, I was asked yesterday, just yesterday, if that elevator was a part of the original barn. And I said, no, we did not move hay and feed sacks up through the elevator, but if you get up on the second floor, where we have a space up there that'll actually seat about 100 people, it's an event space. Look up in the peak, and you can actually see the original hay bale hoist that's up there that actually moved the feed and the hay in and out of the barn. So it's pretty cool if you look up there. There's lots of other material throughout the facility. A lot of the original materials were preserved and reutilized in the space. This includes ceiling beadboard, flooring planks like Dr. Gallion mentioned. There's some doors. A few of the windows are actually the original windows. I think they're located on the north side of the building. Tried to save some of those. And then we actually have some cattle chutes that you're going to see in there, that we have a 2-dimensional cow in there. It's not 3-dimensional. We might work on that. And we did not steal that cow from Chick-fil-A. Somebody thought we did, but we didn't. So anyway, you'll be able to see a lot of features through the building. So pay attention on the wall. There's some brown placards that we placed up there, and it talks about how we reuse some of the material that we took out of the building and put back in. For the exhibits, we have 2 touchscreen interactive exhibits. One is on the history of the dairy barn that you can see. The other explains the dairy industry. So the dairy industry's really backed this project also. It's very important to them, and we appreciate their support. There's dairy barn artifacts. There's some historical photos throughout the facility, a timeline that's in there, and like I mentioned, the cow also. But last but not least, I want to thank our Board of Regents, President Skuvenek, Provost Gallion, Noel Sloan, Dean Bill Brown, Jane Piercy, Patrick Kramer, and Byron Kennedy for never giving up or letting go of the dream for the restoration of this project. your steadfastness, your dedication to first keep the structure and to also have a project that we can be proud of that's long-lasting for the campus and for our entire community. So thank you for that, and we appreciate your support there. So President Skuvenek, on behalf of Facilities Planning and Construction, TTU Operations, our project team, we thank you for giving us the opportunity to serve Texas Tech, and congratulations on this historical renovation. And I think it's time to cut the ribbon, and I think you might have some closing remarks after we cut the ribbon. I don't have that list, but I think you should have a pair of scissors in your seat, and if you sat on those scissors, you should be up here, probably. We'll go down here.
So good. Again, let me thank you all for being here. Regent Griffin, Noel told me I failed to introduce you. I apologize. And again, 2020 has been a challenge, but on a morning like this beautiful West Texas sky, and to be among each other, we can be very grateful for many good things. And so thank you for being here.
I just wanted to let everybody know that we've got refreshments over here. You're welcome to help your. Actually, we have top tier here to serve you all this morning, so feel free to do that. We also are going to have our President Select members provide tours of